Hello, everyone. It looks like we are live now. Let me open one thing. Goodness, I thought I was fully ready and then I forgot to open up a window so I can monitor. Okay, there. Everyone, let's paint again. We worked on this last week for about an hour and a half. We got a lot done, and now it's time to add a second layer. Let me turn this down. This seems a little loud. Um, yeah. So I went ahead and goodness, let me switch this. I went ahead and pre-mixed my palette here with areas I know I want to work on, and let's do it. Let me turn down a few things that are bothering me. Okay. All right. Now I'm good to go. Um, yeah. So I don't have a lot of time today, and that's fine because what I want us to accomplish, we can do pretty quickly, actually. So I went ahead and pre-mixed up our colors that we're going to work with. I essentially have what I want for the background, areas of the table I also want, and then some areas of the shell. I would like to ideally get in like an entire second pass of everything. I think we can do it. We're just going to work quickly. That's why I went ahead and put everything out here the way it is. Um, da, 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 da. So I'm going to just put out some linseed oil here and let's jump on it. Find the appropriate brush I want to use. I don't like that brush. I'm a little disorganized because I'm trying to juggle a lot of things today and accomplish a lot. And what happens is you end up sometimes accomplishing nothing because you're kind of disorganized. We're not going to let that happen. Okay. So the background color, in our last painting session, if you were here, one thing you may have heard me discuss. Oh dear. Linseed oil has a skin on it, so we're just going to set that aside. And I've got a little terp I'm just going to put down in case I just need to make it flow. Ooh. Anyway, when I start working on a painting, I essentially use a very limited palette at first. A lot of my work is essentially going to be broken down into two colors, maybe three colors initially. That's ultramarine blue and transparent red oxide. I mix those two colors together to give me my shadow color, like my black. And then I alter the temperature of those by adding more ultramarine blue and transparent red oxide. And then I'll add like white to that to lighten it if necessary. And it's essentially what I'm doing in the early phases of the painting. And that's kind of what we did last week on this initially. And then we started to quickly add in some other tones as well, like the top of the chest it's on and some other things where I quickly just kind of threw out some, yes, ma'am, I see you. I quickly threw in some of this turquoise and viridian mixture that I have. Anyway, as I started to set up my palette before going live, I noticed by looking at my reference image that the background color actually has like a little bit of a blue ish color to it. It's very much like a Prussian blue, and I kind of like that as I looked at it. So what I did is I went ahead and threw a Prussian blue onto my palette, and I've mixed some of my shadow color into that. That's what you see here on my palette. I'm going to use that color kind of loosely right now just to block in a little bit and help define um, the background of the shell. So, as I've discussed previously, I enjoy using transparent colors more and more, at least in the early phases of a painting. Um, and these colors, the ultramarine blue, transparent red oxide, and Prussian blue, are very transparent. And and that's kind of fine with me at this part of the painting. I'm trying to just block things in and build up some information. I know a lot of oil painters do enjoy working in a very opaque way, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I like building up layers. So that's what I've got going on. Now, as I've discussed before, I do a lot of the work on my palette before bringing it to the painting surface. So that's why I started the painting, already had some pre-mixed strings of colors to jump on. And as we work, we will modify those. My cats are trying to rally me for food right now. So you will probably have some guest appearances during today's stream. Oh, here is another. I got you, baby. I felt like we got a good bit done last week on our last live stream with this. We literally started this painting of this seashell and worked like an hour and a half on it. And it's just, we were just kind of covering the panel with oil paint, defining some of our image. What are you doing? Which is important. You really just have to get paint down sometimes. And then you can build on top of that with more paint. The color of the Prussian blue background that I've mixed up, I'm not entirely happy with it right now. But what we're putting down, we're essentially going to cover again. So there's no need to stress about it. This just serves as a layer. using a variety of kind of coarse brush, um, coarse bristle brushes in this phase. Okay, turn down a setting. Any stray marks I make at this stage, I just try to correct those with a kneaded eraser, not overthinking it much. These transparent colors are great for kind of obliterating edges, making them very soft. Trying to be careful right now building this form, excuse me, at the top part of the shell. Obviously, I'm kind of cutting in with the background to help establish some of the shapes that I loosely brushed in last week. So just trying to continue with what that information has given us, but also correct some of the drawing in the process while kind of staying a little loose with some of the marks. And there's a little bit of negative space that shows here behind the shell. I want to make sure I get that. Oh, you're back. Hey there, baby. I'll get you in a little bit. I know it's almost dinner time. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm just going to clean it up a little bit with the kneaded eraser. One thing that's great about using the kneaded eraser for cleanups or finding an edge and everything is it's pretty uh, it's very soft and it picks up a little bit of paint. And of course, like you can knead it some to kind of clean it up, shape it obviously, but it's I find it great in some of these initial phases of the painting when I want to use it to clean up an area because you can just kind of slide the paint along. I also will use these sharp tipped um, cotton swabs, which are great, but the cotton swab will actually um, the cotton will kind of come loose, so you have to be careful because you'll get these little bits of lint in your paint. Some people don't care. I kind of do with how I paint, so I try to be very careful. But the kneaded eraser is a pretty great tool for this, so it doesn't get um, too messy. So I love them. I use them for drawing, charcoal drawing, pencil drawing, and oil painting big time. Okay. Like I was saying earlier, I want to try to move a little quickly and block in some things. Now, this background color, we're going to paint over that again in our next session, most likely. I just want to get some oil paint down. I paint in layers, so it helps just to get stuff down. And as I've said before, you have to have paint down for more paint to stick to. Um, I find it to be more complex this way instead of just working in a opaque fashion. Just correct that edge that got a little too broken for me. Okay, the shadow. The shadow is a similar color to this sort of blue, Prussian blue color that I've been using, but I actually want to add a little bit of transparent red oxide to it to warm it up. I'm going to throw a little Viridian in it as well. Um, was using just distilled turpentine on that background. But I think right now I'm going to switch to this Ralph Meyer medium. For that shadow area. And for everything else I want to do today, I probably will use that medium. Ball stick. Paint's wanting to what's more the brush. The brush isn't wanting to help me make the marks I want right now in this kind of tight little area, so I'm being a little more careful with this shadow. This shadow is kind of more dark, obviously, in the middle area of where the shell is. Let me pull it out just a little bit more onto the top of this small chest. But it starts to dissipate towards this part here, towards the front of the shell. There's more light that's hitting it, and because I had added a colored light on that side, so it was picking up some of that RGB light. So I'm just going to add some shadow in that area, but making note that it's not as dark as the other areas, which is easy to do at this stage. It's kind of fun to add that RGB light in here to hit that color on the shell. Now, this painting is actually a study for commission. Someone wanted me to make. They had seen some other seashell painting that I had done where I had used this dramatic lighting, and they actually loved it. And they had a special collection of shells that kind of marked key moments, important moments with their family. And there was something important about this shell, I think. I have not been told the story, and maybe there is no story, but there was something about this shell that was important. So he asked me to paint it kind of how I had done the others. Um, I'm experimenting with that color, and I'm not exactly sure what they think. They might love it. So that's part of the reason why I'm doing this study, is to kind of show them what I'm thinking, but also just so I can understand this this object more. When you do studies, you'll understand what you're doing a bit better. So that's why I encourage the you artists that are out there, do more studies, whether they're drawings, color studies in paint, or whatever. I think it'll make your finished product better. You'll understand what you're doing more. It's all a part of the process, very important part of the process. Okay, now I'd love to get some more of this, what I'm going to do on the top part of the chest, which I kind of did some initial mixing up in areas up here, this lighter area. Excuse me, but since I have um, paint here on my palette and on my brush that's pretty close to what I want to use down here, I'm going to block in some initial bit of this chest. Now, I'm adding a little bit of transparent yellow oxide and transparent red oxide to warm it up, because it is warmer than what I see in the background of my excuse me, of my reference image that I'm sharing with you. So I've mixed that up a little bit, and I'll test it kind of against an area. And again, this is all going to be painted over somewhat, so I'm not going to stress it too much. Oh, you're back. You're back. It's a short stream today. Short stream. We're just doing a little work, and then I'll get you some dinner. I'll leave that alone. That's not for kitties. Whenever you all paint, hold your brush in different ways. You know, I see so many people that, you know, will have these long handled brushes, but they hold them like a pencil, and they only use them like a pencil. You know, the length of the brush stick can be used, well, the brush handle, excuse me, the length of the handle of the brush can be used to position yourself away from the painting, and you can hold it in different ways in your hand to achieve different marks. So I encourage you to make use of that. And I think it will make you a much more successful painter. Normally, I flip my panel over several times to kind of get a little closer with my brush when I need to cut in, but I'm trying not to do it right now on stream, in case it's a little more confusing for anyone watching the VOD or the time lapse later. But anyway, we're going to block in the shadow side, and then we'll hit the top part of that chest again with a little bit of color. And then we'll give a little bit more information to our shell, and that'll probably be all the time we'll have for today's stream. And then we'll pick this up again. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We'll pick this up again tomorrow or Thursday, definitely. Anyone has any questions out there, just let me know. Just short stream today, just to kind of pick up where we left off last week, just to get in some time. I've had to do some other projects in the studio, so I got delayed actually with painting. But I want to get some work in, and I decided this painting, I wanted to stream the creation of it, kind of like what I did with one of my last studies. And so anyway, we're live now. There's a latch here on the front of the chest, but it's very much in shadow. So whenever we get into actually painting that in detail, it's gonna kind of be just like painting in the highlights of the metal latch. And that can be kind of fun. I've done that before, and I think it's a great look. Let me get this over here. Cat's getting crazy. A little more transparent yellow oxide with a little bit of transparent red oxide. Again, just to kind of warm up this this mixture that I have, that I've been using for some of my shadow mixture, but I've added a little bit of Prussian blue to it to kind of green it up a little bit. Prussian blue is a great color. Going up to the shadow side, but kind of blurring it together. It's nice to have your edges sort of disappear. That's pretty good. It's gotten a little lost with the background color, but I can correct that later. Okay, cool. So that, actually, before I move on, let me define that just a little bit. I'm going back into my shadow mixture that I have, that I mix up just to kind of catch that a little bit. And again, this will be painted over a good bit next session. I like to work in layers. It makes our colors and everything a bit more complex, I feel. So a lot of this stuff will be painted over again. But it still shows. That's one thing I like to say. Like, even though we might be painting over something, it all shows, especially since we work in colors that are a little transparent. It all builds upon itself. Okay, cool. There. Let me rinse off this brush. Looking at the stream, which has a slight delay, and I'm like, oh goodness, I need to move my camera. I didn't realize that I had my camera so much behind my head. So I apologize to anyone that's watching the VOD, I mean, because I have to contend with my head in the way at times. So my apologies. I'll correct that soon. Okay, cool. Got that brush sort of cleaned off enough. Cover up the brush washer to not allow more things into the studio air, more volatile organic compounds. We don't need that. Okay, let's hit the top of this now. What I have as a mixture of that is I've used essentially more of the Prussian blue. I use a little bit of ultramarine blue, and I even took a bit of our shadow color, which was ultramarine blue and transparent red oxide that are mixed together to kind of neutralize all of this. But I added some turquoise. It's an Old Holland color called Cobalt Turquoise Light, which I enjoy, and I find it popping up more and more on my palette. I don't intend it to have a place on my palette. It's just become an accent color with some commissioned work I've used in the past, but for some reason here it is again, and it's a great color. It's beautiful. And even though I say it doesn't have a place on my palette, it's right there. It's on my palette. Look at our time. Got about 15 minutes or so left that I can stream. I thought I would get more done on the actual shell itself, so we'll see. We'll see. One thing I need to do that I realize I didn't is I need to put a little bit of paint on that latch that's on the front of this. I don't like it being that bright when everything else is in shadow there. I need to correct that before I officially move on. A little stick just to help me steady my hand here. Little area here in the negative space. Pretty good. Yes, ma'am. I'm coming. Okay, that's looking really nice, I think. I'm coming, baby. Hold on. Now, this blue color, let me see how that'll look if I hit. Yeah, I kind of like that. I'm just gonna just scumble a little bit into the front of this chest. It seems like it's got a little bit of color that shows more towards the bottom of the chest. I guess that's like some reflected light from the surface that it's sitting on. So I'm just kind of, I mean, nothing too official, just scumbling a little bit of color there. You know, as I've said before, a lot of this is going to be covered up. Okay, cool, cool, cool. All right, come on, baby, come on. Cat is rallying me for food. Okay, now that latch, like I was saying earlier, is just kind of bothering me. So I want to go ahead and block in a little color there. Just by looking at it, it's super close to what we've been using as our as the shadow color on the front of that. Yes, ma'am. On the front of the chest. But what I'm going to do is just need to be warmer than that. Just kind of squinting at it to kind of find the color right now. It looks like it's what I'm doing is I'm just taking that shadow color, adding some transparent red oxide into it and some Winsor Newton olive green. And again, I'm not like going to overthink that area where the latch is. I'm just covering that with a little bit of color right now. This is all underpainting. It'll be covered up. And whenever I paint that latch, it's essentially going to be painted as highlights because so much of it is in shadow. Is it? Mhm. Scumbling color on, essentially. Scumbling is a nice way, for me at least, to apply paint because the edges are very broken, and it can kind of blend in with what's there. What are you doing, baby? Thanks, I appreciate it, Ron. Yeah, this is going to be a fun little study, so I'm excited about it. Okay, cool. I'm just trying to block in a good bit right now. Quickly, I don't have a whole lot of time left that I can stream, so I'm just sort of getting in some rough color areas, and then refinement will start on our next stream. Okay, now the next thing I want to move into is some of the shadow side of the shell. And the shadow side is like pretty gray, but there's almost kind of a pink area to it, pink coloration. So I'd already pre-made some shell color over here. So I'm in the shadow part, but I want to add a little bit of pink to it as well. So I'm just gonna hit it with the tiniest bit of cad red light. and that helps. Okay. And what I mainly want to do with this color is soften the edges that I'd put in before with the background shadow colors and things like that. It's a little, getting a little light, so I'm going to add some more of my shadow mixtures that I have over here on the dark side of my palette. Shadow mixture that I use is it's just ultramarine blue and transparent red oxide, and you know, pretty even consistency, so I get kind of a neutral color between the two. It's not too warm, not too cool. It's a very it almost is a brown, but I kind of treat it as a black. And today I mixed up another black as well that I was using for some of the background that was similar. It's um, again ultramarine blue, and but in this case alizarin crimson and the Winsor Newton olive green. It's getting the shadow side of the shell and doing a lot of just squinting a little bit just so I can kind of see the simple shapes, simple shadow area. It's easy to get bogged down in detail at this part of the painting, and we definitely do not want that. Not yet. You get bogged down too early in your painting, then you could lose sight of the greater picture, and your proportions will get way off, values get way off. Now there's some reflected light happening on the bottom side of this shell, so it's not as dark as other areas that I just was applying in the shadow side. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of give myself some of that information. Oh, no problem. I just saw your messages, Ron. Thank you so much. Appreciate you dropping by, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you. I'll check out your channel if you have one too. Thanks. Just trying to catch a little bit of this reflected light while the paint is still wet and soften the area of the bottom of the shell against its shadow. There, it's nice to kind of blur those edges a little bit. So that's what I'm doing here real quick. That looks good. Looks very good. Oh. Well, I've got a decent amount of this paint here on my palette. I'm just going to use some of it to hit crucial places that I'm seeing that could use the attention. So again, this is just essentially whites, which is Warm White by Michael Harding and a lead white that I've mixed together to help increase the transparency and dry time. And I have a little bit of transparent yellow oxide and transparent red oxide to kind of tint it to give me that sort of tan color of the shell. So I'm just going to use that kind of quickly here just to make some notes. Since we're approaching the end of our stream, just want to catch some info before we move on. Just going to make... Really? This happened last time we streamed. One of my lights, the battery pack died on it. And it's like, oh God, really? Okay, I guess it's time to go. But that's cool. It's getting that time anyway. But there are a few things I definitely want to hit while I can. So that's why I'm doing this. I've got another battery pack I could just put in. But it's so close to the end of the stream time that I'm just not gonna stress that much. Okay, next thing I want to do before we go, rinse off the brush. And okay, cool. So I've got a little bit of this turquoise color that I put on my palette, and I've mixed it with a little bit of Viridian and some of our light mixture over here again, which is 2 different whites and transparent yellow oxide in this case. And I want to try to see if I can just hit a couple of these areas where this reflected light is on the top of the shell. Well, actually, it's not reflected light. It's actually light. You know, I have a colored RGB light on this side, which is hitting that part of the shell as an accent. And it's actually really pretty, I think. Yeah. Quickly making color notes as I go here. Since I have the paint on my palette, I'm just looking. just quickly darting my eye back and forth, squinting a little bit just to kind of get the information I want and need without getting too bogged down in detail, because it's easy to happen at this stage. And then the next thing you know, proportions are off, values are off. And right now, in the painting, it's most important to get the proportions and values right, especially the proportions right now. You know, we're trying to aim for value, but we're kind of working on the drawing at the same time. Oh, darn it. Almost had some mall stick fail on that one. And I want to hit just a little bit more. There, it kind of cuts in. Yeah, there we go. And up here too. That paint's a little wet still, so I'm not going to be able to get the mark I want, but that looks pretty good. Okay, cool. One last thing was bothering me, but I think I'm going to let it sit until tomorrow. There's a little bit of this turquoise color that's on my brush, actually on the top of this chest in places. So I'm just, it's like broken paint, chipped paint on the top of the chest, but it kind of works. It's kind of nice. And since it's similar to what I have, I'm just going to use it. I'm coming, baby. Hold on. There. Pull this in just a little bit. And get right here. I'm coming, baby. Okay, cool. Dear, where are you? Okay, everyone. I have the camera up there today. Usually I have it down here. It was kind of a mess getting everything set up today, but we got it. Anyway, thanks for dropping by. For those of you that came here, if you're checking out the video later, I really appreciate your time. For those of you that are watching the video on demand, thank you for checking this out. This was a short stream just so I could kind of catch up on some information. It's been a busy day, but I should be back here either tomorrow or definitely on Thursday to pick up with where we have left off. So me and Moroso are so happy to have you here, and she's ready for dinner. So thank you again, everyone. Please like the video if you enjoyed this content, and please subscribe if you haven't so you can stay up to date with what is coming next. Happy painting, everyone. Good night.